Okay, the World Cup group stage is over, and I know we are on the round of 16. I should have made this video earlier, but one, I wanted to give it some time so that we were sure which teams were really going through and what the matches were going to be. And two, I will be doing this after every stage of the World Cup. So after the group stage, after the round of 16, the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then of course we will have a winner by the end of the competition. But just on the group stage, you make the predictions for the whole thing, for the whole event. You have your favorite teams, the teams that you think are going to come last, and etc. I even made a video about my own predictions for the whole World Cup. So it is just right that I do this video, that I look at the state of the group stage and see which teams performed, which teams didn't, and how my predictions came to fruition. And to be honest, there were a few upsets in the groups, but nothing that really, or at least not a lot, that really changed the scope of things. There is of course the group that we'll get into. In the group, I think we all know that had massive changes, and that the team that finished first in that group was not expected to finish first at all. But we'll get into that in a second. And yeah, just very good to now have a look at these groups, and where it is the 5th now, and we're only 13 days away from the end of the World Cup. The World Cup ends on the 18th. That's the last game. I think it's a Sunday, the final. We're only 13 days away. It comes and goes quite quickly. So Group A, we had the Netherlands finishing first, Senegal finishing second, Ecuador finishing third, and Qatar finishing fourth. I spent too much time in this group because my prediction was spot on. Netherlands doing what they needed to do. Something that I did criticize the Netherlands on was the attack. I didn't know who was going to come through for them, but Gakpo came through. Depay came through at times. He scored on the round of 16 game to help them go through. So up front they are okay. I said before the World Cup, they have a good midfield and a good defense. It's going to come down to the attack and how those guys perform, and they've performed well. The Netherlands are looking good against Argentina. I'm not going to say anything crazy because I still think Argentina will win the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Netherlands won. The way this team has been playing, they've gotten the job done every single time. Then you move on to Group B of England, USA, Iran, and Wales, and pretty much the same thing, although we'll get into Iran in a second. I had England finishing first, which they did. Then second place, I had either the USA or Wales. I did say Wales, so I was wrong then. But really between the two, USA went through. Wales were awful throughout the group stage, absolutely awful. Team just had no backbone at all whatsoever. And the USA came through, got the win that they needed, and got the points that they needed to make sure that they went through in the group. The big surprise of this group is, of course, Iran, a team who no one really thought were going to do anything. And after being completely outclassed, outmastered in the first game against England, for them to even get a win in the group was kind of impressive from Iran, showing that the team didn't really give up and that they believed until the last second that they could make it out of the group. That's something always nice to see. There was a lot of talks on how good this World Cup was going to be, but so far I have no complaints. Of course, I'm not there in Qatar with experiencing the whole thing. The stadiums don't look full, but the thing that matters, the football on the pitch, has been good so far. Then you have Wales, of course, which I already said they performed very, very bad. I expected Wales to do a lot better. You look at the amount of players in that team that play in the Premier League. You also had Gareth Bale, who just didn't come through. He's done, really. But yeah, the fact that me and other people had hopes in Wales really came to bite us. Fourth, and they only had that one draw against the USA in the first game, where it finished 2-2. No, sorry, where it finished 1-1. Then Group C, you have Argentina, Poland, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia. And the standings of this group don't tell the full story. Argentina, they struggled. They struggled to make it out the group, and that's not something that you want to hear or see. Actually, before I continue, yeah, no team finished with 9 points, which is quite interesting. I just realized, I was looking down at France and Argentina, two of the favorite teams to win the whole thing. I was like, yeah, neither of these teams, even Brazil, Neither of these teams were even able to finish with 9 points, which just shows how competitive and how surprising this World Cup has been. But just back on the topic of Argentina, this is one of the teams that had as favourites to win the whole thing, and they barely didn't make it out of the group, which is quite surprising. Of course, the infamous first game where they lost to Saudi Arabia, which was a shock to everyone. Them being able to come back against Mexico in that game where Messi just showed everyone why he's still one of the very best in the world. And then the final game against Poland where they just had to get the job done. And also where Poland just had to hold on for their life. Mexico were lackluster. Poland did well, getting the job done. And Bars did say this about Mexico, they did fight into the very last second. They were unfortunate to suffer that goal in the last few minutes of the final match. Otherwise, I think they would have made it. Yeah, if they had scored one more goal, it was 2-0. They had made it 3-0, they would have gone through. But of course, Saudi Arabia once again surprising everyone and getting that goal against Mexico to take them home with them. And then Group D, you have France, Australia, Tunisia, and Denmark in that order. And again, another very disappointing team in Denmark. A lot of people had Denmark as one of the dark horses. I had Denmark in my top 5 dark horses for the whole competition, and for them to come last in their group is also very, very disappointing. France getting the job done. I think in the first 2 games of the competition, France looked very, very impressive, beating Denmark and beating Australia in those first 2 games, and the manner in which they did. Mbappe showing again and again why he deserves to be called the best player in the world, and you do. And although you can have your opinions on who you think is the best player in the world, but I think Mbappe is right around that tier of players. Him, Benzema. Now you can even argue the likes of Haaland. Mbappe is definitely in that conversation, and he's just proven it once again in the group stage. Then Australia is surprising everyone because I had Australia finishing 3rd in this group. They managed to finish 2nd and go through, which is also a very positive thing. And they also won two games in the group. And then Tunisia getting that those 3 points against France in the last game, which nearly messed up the group as well. Imagine if Tunisia had gone through. It would have been a very, very crazy group. But again, another group where the standings don't quite tell the full story, and it just shows how surprising and how competitive this World Cup has been. And then Group E, and this was the group I was alluding to at the beginning of the video. Japan finishing 1st. I had Japan finishing 3rd. I'm not going to act and say that I had Japan as one of the dark horses, as some people were alluding to after they finished 1st. I didn't. I did not expect this from Japan at all, and it's in part my fault. Don't remember seeing anyone on any previews I did watch that I read having Japan as possibly coming through in the group, was just unmanageable with both Spain and Germany in the group. If for example, if Japan was in Group F, maybe some people would have said that Japan could have gone through. But against the giants that are Spain and Germany, for them to be able to get the job done, especially after what Spain, and for them to come 1st as well in the group, they didn't just qualify in the group, they came 1st. After what Spain did to Costa Rica, this was definitely the best group, the most entertaining group. And Germany, once again, 2nd World Cup in a row, is going to, for the next World Cup, is going to be they won in 2014, 4-8. It's going to be 12 years. 12 years for Germany fans to wait to watch their team possibly make it out to the round of 16 in the next World Cup, which is going to be in 2026. A very long wait, very, very disappointing from Germany for them to finish 3rd. At the beginning of the World Cup, my own predictions, I had Germany as a top 5, if I'm not mistaken, top 5 favourite team to win the whole thing. So for them to go out of the group stage in the manner that they did, losing the first game to Japan, which would never have happened. Not to discredit Japan, but if you're looking at the teams just on paper, Germany just got completely outplayed. And the thing with Germany is, it wasn't so much that they didn't play good football, it was just their inefficiency or lack of ability to finish their chances up front was really what got to them. And it just really showed. I think they had 20 shots or something like that in the game against Japan, and Japan just got the better out of them. That's what it matters in this World Cup. You know, the teams that go through are the teams that get the job done. And you can see in Germany, it doesn't matter how good you are or how many chances you create. If you don't get the job done, you get sent home. And then in Group F, of course, you have Morocco coming first, Croatia second, Belgium third, and Canada fourth. And we have to start with Belgium, of course. Not to discredit Morocco and Croatia, but Belgium coming third is definitely the upset of the group. I didn't have Belgium as one of my favorites doing the whole thing, but I can't say that this was expected. At worst, I had Belgium finishing second in this group and then getting knocked out in the round of 16. I thought that was the worst case scenario for Belgium, and they managed to disappoint me even more. I mean, it's not really a disappointment because I don't really care, but because I don't care because this team has disappointed football fans for years after years after years. I think that their best chance for this was the 2018 World Cup, but Martinez once again proving to not really be the manager that this team needed. I remember in that Brazil game in the semi-final, all the changes that he made really cost the team the game. Most of the blame shouldn't be placed on the coach alone, because look at the last game where Lukaku missed the chances that he missed. Was it 4 chances in the second half to get Belgium through against Croatia? So all the blames can't be just on the coach. It has to be on the players as well. And then all the news that are coming out about the Belgium team. But I do blame Martinez a bit as well. I do. And not so much because of this World Cup, but because of the loss. But I don't want to spend too much time on Belgium. I had them on my B tier, so it wasn't like I had much expectation for them, but this was definitely surprising. Then Croatia, I had Croatia coming through out of this group anyways, but it was Morocco. Morocco was really the team that surprised me. I had Morocco finishing last in this group, and they finished first. They played some amazing football. I wasn't too sure on some of their players, mainly Ziyech being one of the biggest stars on the team. I wasn't too sure on Ziyech and how he's been performing for the last 365 days for the last year, but he definitely came through and helped Morocco to get the job done. And it's really just that has been the thing with Morocco this group stage. The cohesiveness and their team identity and the way they play as a group has been what really has gotten them over the hump and helped them to make it out the group in first place, which is, again, something remarkable. Then in Group G, you have Brazil coming first, Switzerland second, Cameroon third, and Serbia fourth. And Brazil, my favorite team to win the whole thing. Not only are they my favorite team to win the whole thing, they are the team that I want to win. I think that in certain competitions, you have the team who you think is the best team to win the whole thing, and then you of course have your favorite team. Brazil is the team that I think is going to win the whole thing, and they are my favorite team in this whole thing, in this whole competition. But I can't really say that them finishing first in this group means that much. They should have finished first in this group regardless. But I wasn't too impressed with Brazil to start off. Against Serbia, it took them too long to get their goal, and then it took them even a bit longer to pull the game to bed against a Serbia team that was just poor all throughout the 90 minutes. And we'll get to Serbia in a second as well. And then you have and then the game against Switzerland, where again they did win the game. They did get the goal, but it was a late goal where Brazil struggled once again. And for a team perhaps as favourites, again, what matters most in the World Cup is getting the job done. And if it looks pretty or not, that's besides the point, as long as you get the 3 points and the wins that you need to win the whole thing. But I expected Brazil to be way more dominant. I expected Bruno and Casemiro to start in the midfield, not Paqueta and Fred to be alongside Casemiro. I didn't like that at all. I just feel like Brazil haven't been that dominant, and I'll be streaming very soon the game against South Korea, and we'll see how it goes. I still think Brazil is going to win. I still think Brazil can then go on to beat who's it that they're playing next? I forgot, but then they're going to go on to play either Argentina or Netherlands in the semi-final. I think that they can get that job done as well. But they really need to begin to assert more dominance in the games and put the games to bed a lot quicker. Just show that you are the favourites. You play like the favourites. But I digress. Then Switzerland coming second, which again was not something I predicted, but I'm not surprised that Switzerland coming second. They did well to finish where they did in the group. And then Cameroon, who nearly made it out the group in their last game against Brazil when they got the win, but of course they didn't. And then Serbia, the team that disappointed me the most in this whole thing. I had Serbia as a top 10. Oh my days. I had Serbia as a top 10 team in the World Cup because I had them as the biggest dark horse for the whole thing. I thought Serbia were really going to shake things up, and they didn't at all. 4th place in the group behind both Cameroon and Switzerland. I looked at how Serbia performed in the qualifying. I looked at their team, the likes of Vlahovic and Mitrovic up front. They had so much talent. They had been performing well. But again, coming into the World Cup, they underperformed, which was really a shame. But then we move on to Group H with Portugal, South Korea, Uruguay and Ghana, and Portugal coming first, South Korea second, Uruguay third, and Ghana fourth. And the biggest upset, of course, is Uruguay coming third, where I'm not going to say that they should have finished second because they didn't play like a team. Should have finished second. The manager just kept getting things wrong and wrong. He played Nunes in back-to-back games, as a winger. If you watch Nunes, you know that his biggest shortcoming, his biggest weakness is his overall build-up game. Darwin is an amazing finisher, but playing him off the wing, you're taking away his best attribute and you're emphasizing his worst attribute, which was a mistake from the start. I understand why he went with a 4-3-3 instead of a 4-4-2, but playing again, you could have played anyone else there. You could have brought Garnacho to the team if that was your plan all along. It was a mistake, which cost it. I'm not saying that's the only thing that made Uruguay come third, but that's one of the things that I am blaming the manager for. Overall, Uruguay just underperformed. That's really what happened. And then the game against Ghana, where they could have made it through if Portugal hadn't lost to South Korea. Again, talking about Portugal quickly, I know how big some people are on Portugal for this whole competition. I'm not really. I think Portugal have a great squad with a lot of talent within the team. I just don't really trust the manager and how he sets up this team for success and the adjustments that he makes in game. Like how in the first game he didn't even start Rafael Leão and just brought him in the second half in the later stage of the game. Rafael Leão, who's been the best Portuguese offensive player for the last year. But it's things like that, and then playing Danilo as a centre back when you know that he's awful on the ball. Things like that are part of the reason why I don't really have much trust in this Portugal team. As a squad, as far as talents go, Portugal is definitely one of the favourites in the whole thing. I still have Portugal, and I had Portugal before the World Cup started in my top 5. But when it comes to them being expected to win, or one of the teams that I think will win, I think that's a bit of a stretch. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching the whole thing. If you got to the end, I really appreciate the support. If you like this content and you want more content, which will be coming through, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back in the round of 16, and we'll see how things go then.